A great piece on Huffington Post by the title of "I Was Broken" and Matt Bomer put me back together. And just I don't want to presume to say anything better than Rance could, so I'll kind of let him go from here. But I do just want to throw the disclaimer out here. If you are tuning in to watch an episode of somebody bashing parents for their right or wrong reactions to the situation, that's not what you're going to get here, because Rance's parents are good people. And so hopefully this will be a good kind of change of pace where we'll actually have, as we like to do in TYT Community, an actual conversation and discussion about issues rather than just shouting talking points at one another. So Rance, if you could, just kind of in a nutshell, break down the story for us, let us know kind of what you wrote, kind of what's going on, and then we'll go from there, man.
All right. Well, last year I actually finally, after a long time, came out to my family, and being from a family in the South, regardless of how wonderful your parents are, it's a very difficult situation because, as a lot of people probably know, Arkansas and Texas are not necessarily the most liberal states. Nor are they located, and they are also located right in the middle of the Bible Belt, as we like to call it. And so there is a little bit of a, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do to come out in that situation. And I currently live in Los Angeles, where it's literally, being gay here is whether or not you prefer, whether or not you're a vegan or whether or not you like to eat meat. It's more of that situation. So it's a little bit different situation. And I finally was actually outed to my parents, and then I had to confirm that to them. And it was not an easy situation, and I had a role model, I guess, kind of a quiet role model that I looked up to. This guy named Matt Bomer, who a lot of you may know. He's in a show called White Collar that's on USA, which I will admit I actually did not watch that show until after I met this guy. But I still looked up to him a lot because he was out and he was proud, and he has a husband and a family, and he's just a really great influence for people who are like me in the creative industry to know that you can move forward and accomplish things. And so I had a very chance meeting with him at Warner Brothers because I am a tour guide at WB. And I happened to see him on the lot, and I went up to him, and he was extremely nice. I told him he had been inspiration to me, and he gave me a hug and asked if I wanted to take a picture, and I took the picture. And then I wrote about meeting him and wrote about how that kind of brought my coming out story full circle. And I submitted it to the Huffington Post, and it ran, and then it got thousands upon thousands of likes. It's great.
Well, that's awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. So there's kind of the backstory. There's the kind of the gist of the piece he wrote. So I wanted to ask you a few questions, Rance. First off, and I'm going to be completely honest here. I have to change my line of questioning a little bit because I read the story whenever it first I don't know, went to press, whatever the phrase is for internet media. And since then, I'd forgotten that you were outed. I thought that this was something that you were able to do on your own. So with that in mind, growing up all those years, obviously this is after college. I've known you for a few years. Whenever this has happened, did you have anyone back home growing up or in college that you were able to confide in? Like was there a confidant or two before you were outed? Well, I guess obviously if you were outed, someone knew, but was there somebody that you were able to share this with, or was it something that you pretty much had to completely keep to yourself until after college?
I did not tell a single soul until after college. I didn't. I kind of busied myself with everything else in my life. I just didn't pursue any sort of romantic section of my life because I just couldn't concentrate on that. Because I honestly just didn't think there was a way that I ever could be gay. Because I didn't want to cause my parents any pain or disappointment, because I do feel like we live in a very, or there is sort of a judgmental nature in the kind of the religiously based community of the southern United States, and I think that perception really drives a lot of the fears that are in the South, and I think perception was my fear, and I didn't want to bring that upon my family. I didn't want to bring shame upon them.
What's that? I know this is such a dumb, broad question, but what's that like? I mean, the day-to-day of constantly, being afraid that if your parents find out who you are, there'll be shame. Kind of how do you? I don't know a better way to phrase it. What's that like?
It's like a constant fear that's in the back of your mind, and you busy yourself with all these other things. I was busy being a good student and working on all these creative projects inside, developing every other segment of my personality. You try to put all these other things in front of you so you don't have to think about that thing that's way in the back. But it's kind of inevitable because it is a part of human nature, and you can't deny yourself basic needs of human nature. And so eventually it's going to come to the forefront, and you have to confront that. But I imagine there's many people like me who are 25 years old, as I am, and they're still in denial because of fear. And it's like that little lump in your throat that you get when you're afraid something's going to happen, or the thing you are most afraid of has happened, but it's there constantly.
Gotcha. All right, well, if we can get not that this entire story is an incredibly
I actually got a quick question for Rance. This actually has little to do with your article, but a lot of people who are, for lack of a better term, gay haters, claim that it's a choice or all these different things. And my question is, for you, when did you know personally that you were gay?
Well, the first time I remember having any sort of feelings was when I was 8 years old, and I saw Robin shirtless in a Batman comic book. But I mean, from the first time I had any sort of sexual feelings, which was around the age of 11 or 12, it was always centered at men as opposed to women. And I have never had, if I can just be completely graphic, I've never had any desire to see a woman naked.
I mean, that's just what I wanted to get out there, because it's like, a lot of people don't understand, it's just a normal thing. That's like the normal time that a kid starts liking, that a straight kid would start liking girls. It's not a conscious choice. It's something that you're born with. I have a question, because Bomer was your personal hero, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of kids are going to be looking up to the next gay icon, who is Michael Sam. He was drafted by the Rams recently.
Yeah.
What do you think about that story and the fact that he's not only a football player, but he's also going to be on its own reality TV show?
I think it is so important to break down that wall, because the NFL, the NBA, that's kind of like the epitome of macho, the epitome of alpha male. And it is, in large part, that type of perception of those guys being the ultimate of what a man is supposed to be, that keeps guys like me kind of down in the gutter in people's opinions. And so to have someone who is this all-American, this nice-looking young now NFL player, come out there and be proud, and to kiss his boyfriend the first time he finds out that he's been drafted, and for that to be broadcast across ESPN and all these other alpha male channels is huge, because it breaks down a little wall. And hopefully, if there is a 12 or 13-year-old who sees something out there like that, and they're in the same place that I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, then they will know that they aren't alone, and that they aren't the only ones who feel that way, which is what I felt.
Totally.
I do have one follow-up. Do you have any advice for like younger teens who are maybe afraid to come out to their parents, or like anything you'd like to put out there?
Well, I will say, sometimes the fears, it's tough to say this, but sometimes the fears are legitimate, because you could have a family